Namaste. Welcome to both.
Namaste.
Bodha is not. Namaste. Bodha is knowledge. Bodha is awareness that dawns when dharma drishti is trained on a subject. In a way, it is analogous to the Greek concept of logos, which is attached to the end of any word as a suffix to denote its study, just like we know theology or biology or astrology, meaning the study of that particular subject. But we see that that concept has lost its original Greek imputed meaning due to the current Judeo-Christian framework, and the new connotations have attached itself to them, denoted by sophistry and whatnot. Change of narratives, uh, uh, study which promotes Christianity and demotes all other points of views. So logos has lost its original meaning, but thankfully through the perseverance of Hindu civilization, Bodha still retains its essence, its original meaning. And this series of conversations that we have, which is titled Bodha, is an attempt to draw out that meaning out from a dharmic perspective. In today's conversation, we will unravel the basics, the fundamental ecological footprint of a Hindu through a discussion on the relationship of the Hindu with the world, or even worlds, given that we consider multiple lokas, the relationship with the elements and obligations of a Hindu to both his future and his past. We are joined, we are honored to be joined by an eminent scholar, a doyen of Indian knowledge systems, Sri Nagaraj Paturi ji. Nagaraj ji, namaste.
Namaste.
Nagaraj ji has been designing and teaching courses on cultural research for over 3 decades now, 1986 to be exact, before even I was born. So he is an authority on culture studies, comparative religion, historiography, ethnography, research methodology, semiotics, and a lot many more subjects. He is currently the dean at Indica and a core committee member of MIT Vedic Sciences. We also have Pankaj ji from our own Brihat team. Pankaj ji is the Director Culture Research at Brihat, co-founder, and he's a research scholar on temples. And I'm Anshuman Panda, a Senior Research Fellow at Brihat. So we will directly begin the conversation. Nagaraj ji, I would like to begin the conversation with you by asking, how does a Hindu look at the world? What is her conception of the Brahmānḍa, and if she or he reveres nature, what is it in her worldview that justifies that reverence? Nagaraj ji, if you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, when we say Hindu worldview, it is a cultural complex made up of a Vedic stream and a stream of Vanvasi culture and a stream of what the Western world calls folk culture. So we have to, whenever we talk of Hindu worldview, we have to see whether all these three have something in common. And when the Western studies of a Hindu worldview have been done, they have divided the Vedic as Aryan and folk and tribal Vanvasi as a Dravidian, and they created a conflict between them. But actually, what happened is they got synchronized into a single culture. And one of the strongest bases of that synchronization, one of the strongest bases of that harmony is ecological worldview, environmental worldview. Only because all the three streams are environmentally friendly, nature friendly, and environmentally oriented, they were able to merge into a single culture called the Hindu culture. And that within Vedic side, there is a clear articulation of all this, whereas on the other two sides, the Shastric and detailed, rigorous articulation of that doesn't happen. It is available in those two streams in the form of cultural practices or songs or literature or narratives and so on, where it is not an explanatory, rigorous, scientific, or theoretical articulation. This is the beauty of Vedic worldview, that it shares with all the indigenous cultures of the world. It shares so many aspects where all those world indigenous cultures do not have a theoretical articulation. Vedic worldview has that theoretical articulation. That theoretical articulation of environmentalist worldview is distillated, I should say, into Bhagavad Gita. uh, we say that Bhagavad Gita is the essence of Upanishads or Upanishad itself, and it is the essence of Vedanta. And in Bhagavad Gita, there are two very crucial concepts which actually resonate with the contemporary ecological worldview. They are the cyclic concept. One is the cyclic concept. In the contemporary environmentalist worldview, people use words like eco-cycles, and environmentalism is uh, it is actually it rests a lot, it anchors a lot on the cyclic nature of natural processes. And whenever you remember Bhagavad Gita, the word that rings in your ears is Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati hayah aghayurindriya ramo moham partha sajivati. Evam pravartitam chakram. The cycle which is being run this way, which is running this way, यो एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रं न अनुवर्तयति इह यः, who does not behave according to, na anuvartayati, he does not behave according to, in following of the cycle, saha mogham partha sajivati. Mogham, he lives a vain life. Why he behaves like that? Aghayuhu indriya ramaha. He is a sensualist. He is, uh, he is controlled by the senses and is attracted by the senses and doesn't care for the nature. That is why he is aghayuhu. Such a person is sinful person. That is eco cycle is here. And before this shloka you have an example of such an eco cycle. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhavaha yajñat bhavanti parjanyo yajñah karma samudbhavaha. It is saying annad bhavanti bhutani, all creatures are coming from anna, food only. Parjanyad anna sambhavaha, clouds are creating the food. Yajñat bhavanti parjanyo, clouds are coming because of. Yajna can be given two different meanings. Actually, for the present, for the simplest communication, let us say yajna, havan, that we do. All a huge organization of several havans in a very scientific way, in a Shrauta, Shulba Sutra controlled way, that yajna creates the clouds, that those yajñas are fertilizer yajñas, pesticidal yajñas, nourishing yajñas, and curing and healing yajñas. Technically, the Shrauta words are Shantika yajñas, healing and curing yajñas, Paustika yajñas, nourishing yajñas. These yajñas create the clouds, and yajñat bhavanti parjanyo yajñah karma samudbhavaha. How is yajna coming? It is yaj, so the Sanskrit root yaj has different meanings given. One of the important meanings given is sangati karana. They, other meanings are deva puja, dana, etc. are also there. But the root meaning of that is sangati karana. Sangati karana is linking, coordinating, organizing. So, yajna is what? It is the organization of karmas. What are karmas? Karmas are eco-friendly activities. How do you know that karmas are eco-friendly activities? In the 8th chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna, Kim karma purushottama? What is karma? Please tell me. There, the answer in that chapter given is that visarga karma sangitaha, visargaha, visarjana, giving up, dropping, dropping things into yajna. Sampradade, namama is the word used. Sampradade, I am giving to nature. How do you know that we are giving it to nature? So, Indraya idam namama. Indra is a nature force. Actually, we did not say that Indra is a nature force. Right from the time of MacDonald, Max Muller also, all the Vaidika Devatas have been defined as nature forces only. Everyone knows that it's all natural poetry and nature forces only. So if you are saying Indraya idam nama, Agnaya idam namama, you are saying you are giving to nature forces there. And another key concept of Bhagavad Gita with regard to environmentalism is the mutual relationship between nature forces and the humans. There, the shloka says that Purovacha Prajapatihi, the creator in the beginning, Sahayajña Prajan Sruštva, he created these yajna activities. Along with them, he created Prajaha, creatures, human beings. And then he said, both nature forces and humans be friendly with each other. Parasparam bhavayantaha shreyah paramavapsyatha. Parasparam bhavayantaha. Nature forces will nourish you. You nourish the nature forces. Parasparam bhavayantaha. Devaha bhavayantu. Tvam bhavayanta devaha. Parasparam bhavayantaha. Shreyah paramavapsyatha is what is said. All over the world, environment related worldviews can be divided into three types. One is nature fearing. I do not know who are nature fearing, but our textbooks have taught us that there are some Vanvasi communities, not here in India, but in Africa and other places or in the primitive societies, they are afraid of nature. I do not know whether they are really afraid, but at least that projection is there. That some people are afraid of nature, they are afraid of nature forces. So, if there are forces which are afraid of nature, that is one level. Another level is nature controlling, nature dominating. This word, I controlled nature, I brought nature under control, we are controlling nature, started from the time of Enlightenment period, Renaissance, science and technology, whenever it started, up to the time of textbooks of my period. I do not know Amshuman's textbooks whether they have it or not, but at the time of my textbooks, they were very clearly saying man controlled nature. Man brought nature under control. So this word, all Hindus remember to have been used by Asuras only. Every Asura every time says, hey Vayu, hey Agni, hey Indra, I brought you under control. I kept you in my house. I tied you. I am putting you under control. So this very view of nature control has been viewed as Asuri Shakti in Bhagavad Gita. There is a chapter on Devasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. If you are friendly with nature, it is Daivi Sampatti. If you are nature controlling, it is Asuri Sampatti. So this Asuri Sampatti is there in Asuras. That is why all the Asuras, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, any description is shown as nature controlling. And science and technology proudly claimed itself to be this. And from an Indian perspective, this is Asuri way of looking at it. So if you keep these two extremes, nature fearing and nature dominating, on two sides, the middle ground is being friendly with nature, give and take with nature, give to nature, take from it. Very clearly, Bhagavad Gita is very clearly saying Parasparam Bhavayantaha. There is no statement in Bhagavad Gita which is telling you Be afraid of gods, be benevolent to gods, be obedient to them, touch their feet. No, no such expression there. Or there is nothing like control devatas, bring them under control. Neither of these. It is of an equal relationship, at an equal status. Parasparam bhavayantaha shreyah param avapsyatha. These two cyclic concept, evam pravartitam chakram, and parasparam bhavayantaha, nature forces and human being at an equal level and exchanging with each other, giving and taking from nature. These two are the key concepts of a nature friendly worldview, not just in India. It has to be all around the world in all indigenous cultures, but in other indigenous cultures this is in the form of cultural practices, songs, narratives. For example, in Banavasi cultures also, they have this attitude, they make friends with the deities. They never say देवता से मैं डरता हूँ, ये डराता है नहीं, वो तो अपना दोस्त है, साथ घूमता है जंगल में. So that attitude, Vanvasi attitude also is a friendly nature with the deities. You look at the village deities. I wrote articles way back decades ago about how what we call a village goddess actually is the village itself. Village ecosystem is personified or given a deity form, and it is called village goddess. Same thing is forest goddess also. Forest goddesses also, forest ecosystem is given the name of the forest goddess. There are expressions in Vanvasi cultures where they say, if somebody is cutting the tree, they say, देवता की हाथ कट गई है, देवता कट जा रही है. कौन देवता? वन देवता. Same thing about a village goddess also, providing all the proofs of village goddess worship cultural practices. I showed in those articles that all the village goddess fairs and festivals, appeasing them or being friendly with them, all these are village goddess worship is basically a view of village as an ecosystem, and that ecosystem getting personified into a deity, and that being called a village goddess or Grama Devata, or whatever you call. Actually, the Bharat Mata idea is a pan Indian or an India level form of village goddess only. When you look at the whole of India as a village, the India village goddess is Bharat Mata. It starts at the village level, it starts at the Vana level, and it becomes Bharat Mata at a whole Bharat level. So you have this Bharat Mata idea already existing from millennia in the villages. That village, you just go and watch, look at the names of the village goddesses also. Village name and Ma is added, that becomes village goddess name. And there are many more proofs that we can show that they are looking at their own village as the. In South Indian culture, I can show more proofs. They talk about the navel, and there is a navel stone, and from there the village starts, and there is a polymera, the border of the village, everything we can show all these. And anger of the village is also worshipped. The benevolence of the village also is worshipped, ecosystem is worshipped, and the anger is also worshipped. For example, I was making a video with Harikiran Ji, our founder, Indica's founder, during COVID time. I was telling him that COVID is viewed, if you go to villages, they say, माँ जी गुस्से में है, यही इसको कोरोना कोरोना बोल रहे हैं, कोरोना माँ का गुस्सा है. So
In North
further,
India also, Shitla Mata is a very popular goddess.
yes,
Ma
Mata,
Shitla Devi, she is a goddess of diseases only. So you go to
yes,
her so that the villages and the town is not diseased. And she is a
disease.
very popular goddess all over North India.
Yeah, so they all over Mansho Devi in Bengal,
Yeah.
or Hidimba and other goddesses in Himachal Pradesh, You
Yeah.
have Bhairoji and Bhairodevi in Kashmir. You have all over India similar forms where the natural calamities are seen as her affectionate anger.
Yeah.
Affectionate anger because it is viewed as an anger which is coming to teach us discipline, and all the fertility cults. All the fertility cults are seen as her benevolence. For example, crops, flowering, greenery, all these are viewed as her benevolence, smiling aspect, prasanna rupa, to use the Sanskrit word, माँ जी का प्रसन्न रूप है और माँ जी का उग्र रूप है. Anger, Shitala Devi, for example, if it is viewed as diseases, it is ugra रूप.
Hmm.
If it is viewed as crops or greenery or flowering, it is the prasanna rupa. So she has both.
Exactly.
Just like our mother at home, she is angry and benevolent also. So you have these in the form of Grama Devatas and Vana Devatas in the Vanavasi and what they call folk cultures, and in many other aspects, folk cultural environmentalism, Vanavasi forest dwelling people's environmentalism is reflected. The beauty on the side of Vedic culture is that all these things are explained theoretically, in the form of, for example, cyclic nature or mutual relationship with Devata and human beings. In these forms, it is explained here. So now, historically also, you have a clue, a secret is revealed. How come these three cultures were able to come together? Is the question, researchers' question. Answer is the commonness is environmentalism. Environmentalism is the clue, it is the key where they were able to live with each other. And what happens when you have environmentalism is you allow the other culture to exist because you know that it is cultural diversity which sustains natural diversity, and natural diversity is the secret of environmental sustainability. So, because of this, all these three components, Vanvasi, Gram, and Vaidika cultures, all the three, because they have this diversity orientation, they allowed the other two to sustain. There was no, for example, Vaidika proselytization, because Vaidika knew that it should not proselytize the other, it should allow that culture to sustain. Cultural sustainability leads to biodiversity, it leads to natural diversity. Only natural diversity can sustain nature. That is why Vaidikas knew this, they did not convert the other two. Unfortunate thing is that not being ready to convert is seen as hiding one's own knowledge. If you are saying that I don't want to convert you, I don't want to say, oh, follow Vedic culture. People say that Vedic people hid their culture, they did not distribute it away to the village people or
Only
forest
one
dwelling
Varna
people.
handled the knowledge.
So homogenization is not done. If you do homogenization, it is viewed badly because actually you are dominating the way the whole world cultures are happening, all global cultures are doing, all Abrahamic religions are doing, all religious imperialisms, economic imperialisms, whatever imperialism, whatever expansionism is happening in the world today, it is homogenization only. And homogenization starts with the understanding that I got a gospel, and the whole, I have a responsibility to give the gospel to others. But once, like a Vaidika, you understand that okay, the other person also knows what how much I know. I'm an environmentalist, he is also environmentalist. I am an environmentalist, the other two cultures are also environmentalist. What is there for me to teach them? Actually, they can also teach me, I can also teach them. Then you don't get into this expansionism. That is what Vaidika
It's
culture did.
paraspara.
Parasparam
That's
bhavayantaha, not only with devatas, even with the co-cultures, the other two streams of culture also, they said parasparam. And
such
that,
a
yeah,
see.
okay, sorry. The,
No, no. Uh,
yeah,
I
yeah,
was just
please.
saying that only Nagarajji. It is such a
Hmm,
beautiful thought. Parasparam bhavayantah. But we
hmm,
see a thread that you touched upon in this conversation right now is कि with the oncoming of enlightenment, this uh, this thing changed. There was the nature dominating attitude which came about, and I would like to draw in Pankaj here. Uh, the Enlightenment thinkers, when they looked at other cultures of the world, they looked at them as backward, as primitive, as brutes and savages, basically. But we see post that eminent naturalists from that stream of knowledge itself, like Wade Davis, E.O. Wilson, and many others, had commented what is at stake, what is being lost due to this attitude of torturing the secrets out of nature, that asuric tendency. So, I would like to ask, ki, what is it that they saw and they discovered about the dharmika principle of living in coexistence with nature, and what is the learnings from the different cultures around the world? How is the Hindu dharmika way of living? Uh, how does it correspond with the different, let's say, pre-Abrahamic cultures of the world? Your thoughts, Pankaj?
Yeah, thank you, Anshuman. Uh, I would like to start where Patraji actually started also, and with the definition, because once again, I do not know, Anshuman, whether you studied that definition, but when I was a child, and that definition still exists, the definition of culture. The very word culture was defined as something by in which you use the forces of science and technology to control the forces of nature for the use of man. So it was basically an attempt. They saw culture as an attempt to control nature, to completely command it. So you see the destruction that this thought caused, and what Patriji described as the trifecta, the actually good arrangement between three sort of cultures in Bharatvarsh, in Sanatan Dharma, that existed in many ways, in lesser ways, all over the world. I got this insight from reading Lauren Isley, another scientist who makes a very, very pertinent observation that culture is actually stand in nature. It is a force which protects the laws of nature when nature itself is no longer capable of doing so. So we can understand this thought very easily through one example, that in nature everything is limited by every other system. For example, the population of deer is limited by how they are hunted, how they starve to death when there is not enough food, how they get diseased, and there is a perpetual balance between the population of deer, between the population of lions, between the population of different species of flora and fauna. There are natural laws which are at play and which govern themselves. There is no external agency, there is no centralized control which directs this. There is a natural balance inside nature. These are the reflections of the cosmic laws, cosmic rhythms, which govern the laws of universe. In nature, these are the natural laws which govern various flora, fauna, species of flora, fauna, and the ecosystems that are created. What happened when man discovered technology is that this balance, this internal balance was disturbed. So suddenly, and because Ram Manoharji says it very beautifully, that in nature everyone is at the same time the hunter and the hunted. So either you are limited by other species, or if you are the top predator like lions or tigers, then you are limited by the resources that are there. So that if there are less resources, then you have increased the population, then more individuals of that species will die. What happened when man discovered technology? That man broke this food chain and this balance of nature. We suddenly became the top predator, apex predator, without any possibility or with very less possibility of being hunted. And we started populating at the top of the food chain, creating societies in numbers which in nature only insects sustain. For example, the kind of societies that we have created. For example, Tokyo is more than 3 crores. Mumbai is now touching 3 crores. Mexico City is 2.5 crores. If you see in nature, only insects have that kind of population densities. If you read Evils and if you read any evolutionary biologists, that's how they sustain. If you actually go to higher mammals, very few number of individuals can be sustained in a particular environment. So what happened is that when man came out of food chain, initially there was a great wave of destruction all over the world. This can be seen in the prehistory of the planet. Wherever man has gone, and they say also, the disappearance of the big fauna, the big animals disappear because they hunt them to extinction, because they are slow, they cannot adapt to human being or human society. But then, everywhere in the world, which they fail to see, everywhere in the world, a new equilibrium is set with between nature and culture. This equilibrium comes when culture comes in and you create arbitrary, so-called arbitrary laws, which do not actually exist, but which protect the same laws of nature, which used to be self-protected earlier in when the natural laws prevailed. For example, there are limits on everything, and that's how in our society, and you see it's reflected in the words that we use for it. Prakriti and Sanskriti, they are the purak of each other. They fulfill each other, and there is no conflict between them, between nature and culture. So theirs is a society of nature culture conflict. Ours is a society of nature culture continuum, which Paturi very beautifully illustrated. I'd also just like to attract the attention towards one aspect. This did not start with enlightenment, actually. This started with the Bible and with Judaism and Christianity, with Judeo-Christianity. When the Bible gives the dominion, see, the Hindu worldview is completely opposite, diametrically, 180 degrees opposite to the biblical and Judeo-Christian worldview. For us, we have the concept of pancharana. So we pay our debt back to the deities, and Paturi so beautifully explained, the village itself is a deity. That natural place ecosystem itself is a deity. So we pay our respects to deities, to the ancestors, to the sages who came before us, to the fellow human beings, and bhutarina is to pay our debt back to nature. Bhutarina is literally when you pay your debt back to flora and fauna, to animals and plants. And the Hindu worldview works on kartavya bodh, based on the concept of pancharana, that just by the act of being born and living, just by the sheer act of living, a debt is being created on you. For the better want of a word in English in these terms is a very deficient language. For the want of a better word, a debt is created on us. And so a Hindu has to, all his life, repay those debts, which were on him in past, due to prarabdha, in past lives, and which he also accrues in this life just by the sheer act of living. For it's also very easy to understand, as soon as you're born, none of us can take care of ourselves. We cannot feed ourselves. We cannot drink any water. We cannot even relieve ourselves or clean ourselves. So somebody else has to do it. So the parents and the immediate society, when we grow up, when we avail the services of various institutions of culture, and of course the ecosystem that the nature has created. So the very worldview of a Hindu is built upon how do you pay it back to nature. This is the Ridanubandh and the concept of Pancharana, and how a Hindu Kartavya Bodh is related to that. Instead of, if you see the biblical, the Christian worldview, it is based on how the dominion of, here the jealous God, Jehovah, gives the dominion of the world to his chosen people, because they have the concept of chosen people. So he says, I am awarding all of the rivers of milk and honey and all of these animals, they are for your consumption. So basically, the attitude which the corporate carries right now, they have a phrase in economy called extraction economy. So extraction economy, when you go to very biodiverse areas, for example, most of our northeastern hill states, you go there, you see what minerals do they carry, what water resources, what thermal power capacity do they have, and you extort these resources from them. This is called as extraction economy. So when you have a nature culture conflict worldview, you will do this. When you have a nature culture continuum worldview, you will have a Hindu worldview in which you will try to pay your duty towards nature. And this was not just there in the Shastras. Shastras are, and Patriji will be far more capable of quoting all of them. Shastras were very clear on how do you pay your debts back to nature. But even in Lok Samskriti, it was very, very clear. For example, in every house we would have seen, and I come from Madhya Pradesh, so we ate roti mostly. So the first roti that my dadi, my grandmother made was for the cow. So before us, it was the cow which ate. The in between rotis were for us. The last roti was for the dog, and whatever a small flour that was left, it was left for the ants. So even insects were incorporated. Now, even every single woman would pay the pancharana in her daily life. She would wake up in the morning, do all her ablutions, cook food, and first of all, she would go to puja ghar to offer it to the gods, so the devrid. And then she would go outside and give it to animals, of course, the dog and the cow, so bhutrin. Then, of course, pitra, she would go and offer it stand in front of her father-in-law, mother-in-law, their pictures, and would stand there with prayers and offer it to them. Then with Narrin, with all of her extended family, she would eat the food. This was the daily routine. So this feeling was everywhere. There were legends, there were stories woven into our lives, which taught us how to live in harmony with nature. That how nature is not our not our property. It is a heritage which we have to carry over and transfer it to next generation. It is not a property which you can spend in this life. And this comes from a one life worldview, which again is a Judeo Christian creation. Before the Bible, nobody believed in just one life. Every ancient so called tribal religion had a very great cosmology in which there were very elaborate stories about how species get reborn. So the rebirth, reincarnation, most of the world believed in that. And once you have that view of sustainability through multiple generations, once you have that Karn Phal Siddhant in your mind, you will not be irresponsible, because you know that what you are creating now, you will have to bear the fruit in, if not in this life, then next life. This worldview created a very responsible, very harmonious worldview between culture and nature. And that is seen in so many stories. I will just quote one in 1 minute. My father used to take me to a place in near my birthplace in Morena, and that ashram would you hold these bhandara, so great feast of all the people around them many times a year. And now there were great legends about that bhandara, which when I grew up, I got to know that almost every sacred place in North India, at least, and even in South India, had those stories. So there was a story that once they did not have enough oil or ghee. They ran out of ghee to fry puris. So what did they do? The great saint said that go to the well, pull out some water, and that water will become ghee. But after you have used that ghee, whatever is left, put it back into the well. It will once again become water. And when you have earned enough in future, actually put that much ghee into the well. So see how deeply sustainable a worldview this legend is talking about. It says that when there is an emergency in the nature, the ecosystem can cough up surplus, but you only use it in the times of emergency. And only that which is necessary in the times of emergency, because the rest of the ghee you have to put back into the well. But after that, you have to pay, because it's like a debt that you have taken from future. So whatever is there in the future, taken from the future, you have to give it back to the future. So to your next generations, what a sustainable worldview. So you have to put the ghee back into the well, into the water. And this is repeated actually incessantly in our text. Bhagavad Puran has a very wonderful story of Yayati, in which it's a very famous story. It's told in the Mahabharata also, but this particular incident I quote from Bhagavad Puran, where Yayati is quoted and he says that I am very powerful, handsome, and this, and I love enjoying life. I love enjoying the company of women, but I am not satiated. My youth is coming to an end, but I am not satiated. I want to experience this more, and more. So he asked one of his 3 sons, to give their youth to Yayati, to their father. And the 2 sons deny the famous story, and the third one actually agrees. So his youth is taken away. But that is not important for a story. What happens is that Yayati then takes 1,000 years of youth, goes and enjoys it, completely with women, company of women, and eating and revelry, all sort of enjoying life. But then after 1,000 years, he once again comes back and he says, I'm still as insatiated as before. And then there is a wonderful line in Bhagavad Puran that not all the resources of the universe can satiate the adharmic desire of a single man. Such a beautiful story where he is taking, literally, he's taking a loan from the future when he's taking the youth of his future generations, of his own sons. So he's actually destroying their future so that he can enjoy more in the present. So literally, this is what our generation is doing under the influence of enlightenment in Judeo-Christian worldview, that we are destroying our world and all the please human rights so that we can have more resources all around. But we are destroying the future of our own kids, of the future generations. And then it is said that when he comes back, his desires are still not satiated. Because adharmic desires are never satiated, they create more neural circuits in your mind. So you become more and more insatiated. My guru used to say, and which is there in the text also, that by dharma, if you fulfill your desire, actually that desire to have that desire will drop off in due course of time. But with adharma, if you try to fulfill desires, that desire will keep increasing. Dr. Rashish Mishra says beautifully that dharma ke bina काम अनैतिक और धर्म अनियंत्रित हो जाता है. So you have to limit arth and काम with dharma. That is how beautiful our civilization was. That is how our lok and shastra were connected to each other. That is a very sustainable worldview that was there. From the world cultures, we do not have that much of time here. This type of glimpses can only be found the world over now, except India and China and Indo-China, in the tribal indigenous cultures all over the world, who are now caught up in like Amazonian jungle or somewhere else, or African desert or somewhere, where the reach of the modern Judeo-Christian civilization, Western civilization, has not reached. So at least there in the West, there is a tradition now, minor tradition of going to these places, studying their indigenous culture. I would like to say, in India, the Hindu culture is the indigenous culture. And there is a great Christian ploy to discard Hindu, like Paturi said. So हम तो Aryan हो गए. So discard Aryans and their culture. And what is the original culture of the indigenous culture? But they fail to see that here, Lok and Shastra, Marg and this, they fulfilled each other. Nowhere in the world was there a centralized civilization. It was not entirely centralized, but there was a central culture which actually supported the decentralized Desi culture all over India. If you go to Manipur and if you meet the Meiteis, if you go to their homes, there will be a shrine in which there will be Vishnu, and along with Vishnu, there will be Sanamahi. Sanamahi is the local god, their own Meitei traditional conventional god that they used to worship. So we did not destroy it. But if we go to just in Imphal, because Manipur is 80% hills, which are 100% Christian, and the valley is Hindu, which is mostly Hindu. So from any Imphal home, you can actually see the mountains. And in the mountains, which are 100% Christian, where Koki Christians live, if you go to their home, not a single old deity survives. So when Christianity converts, it completely destroys. When a great Hindu culture expands, it, instead of destroying those local cultures, it supports those local cultures, those regional Kshatriya Desi culture. So for the sake of their survival, Hindus need to expand. Hindus need to expand that Sanatan umbrella so that these regional local cultures have the abhaya, that they can live as they want to. And they can live in harmony with nature in their old ways, in which they lived in harmony with nature.
It, I guess, is dharma in action, since dharma is dharayati iti dharma. And perhaps that is why dharma is the first purushartha before kama and artha. There is one topic that I want to touch, and Nagaraj ji, you mentioned it. You said ki yajna is the organizing principle of karma, and karma is ecological deeds itself. I wanted to know about the cosmology of Hindu worldview, because yajna is done to the Vedic Purusha, and Purusha is the counterpart of Prakriti. So if you could shed some light on that aspect.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you for reminding me that. We have this sukta of Rigveda Dashama Mandala called Purusha Sukta. There, uh, there are words like yajñena yajñamayajanta devaha tani dharmani pradhamanyasan. The beautiful expression there is yajñena yajñam ayajanta devaha. Who are performing these yajñas? Devaha, nature forces. How are they performing? Yajñena yajñam ayajanta. They are putting one yajña into the other yajña as a havis. Yajna, one yajna is an oblation into the other yajna. If you look at ecosystems as yajnas, I was saying that yaj is sangatikarana. Sangatikarana is organization. So every ecosystem is a self-regulated and self-sustained organization of activities. So if ecosystem itself is yajna, then what is happening is one ecosystem is getting oblated into, it is being poured as oblation into the other ecosystem. One ecosystem is processing the other ecosystem. And tani dharmani pradhamanyasan, which means that these natural ecological processes of self-regulation and self-sustained, they became the first line in the copybook. They became the role model. They became the emulatable models. So the yajnas that humans performed were imitations of the natural yajnas that was already happening. Nature itself was a huge yajna. That is why in the Purusha Sukta it is said that Purusha, the cosmic person, he is putting himself as havis into that. Purusha Sukta describes that it is a self-sacrifice. The Purusha is putting himself as oblation into the yajna. And the whole Purusha Sukta is nothing but a description of cosmos, the cosmic person, putting into the cosmos. Cosmos burning or consuming, inflaming the cosmos. Cosmos is burning itself. Cosmos is processing itself. So that cosmic person is offering himself into that. And that cyclic process is described inside the Purusha Sukta. They talk about, for example, that Brahmanos Yamukamasit Bahu Rajanya Krita, that mantra, that comes only in the Purusha Sukta. People don't tell you all these things. That they always bring this Brahmanos Yamukamasit, but they don't tell you that in the narration inside the Purusha Sukta, it comes at a stage when the Purusha has already sacrificed himself. He consumed himself. He put himself as the oblation into the fire of cosmos. And he comes back. He takes the rebirth. And this Brahmanosya Mukamasit and other shlok, other mantras are coming as a description of that coming back. How he came back? The Brahmana came back as the face, the Kshatriyatva came back as the shoulders, the Vaishyas came back as the Udara, and the Shudras came back as the legs. That is how the coming back is being described there. So, Purusha Sukta is a cyclic process description. It is a cosmic description. That is why inside Purusha Sukta, you have the other cosmic entities also, other astronomical entities, other celestial bodies. For example, Chandrama, Manaso, Jataha is also part of Purusha Sukta only. All those mantras, all those mantra lines, which are cosmic in their perspective, which are cosmic in their scope, are being described. That is why Purusha Sukta actually is a Virat Purusha Sukta. Virat is the cosmic. That is why it begins with Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasra Sahasrapad. It begins as numerous heads, numerous eyes, and numerous feet, because it is cosmic. So the entire Sukta, Purusha Sukta, is it can be viewed as a creation narrative. It can be viewed as a cosmic person's description. So the link between these two, what we have to see is That, for example, if you are looking at something else as person, you are taking your own personality, your own person as the example. So you are modeling the other thing in your own form. So what are you doing every day when you are consuming food? You are sending food inside to nourish. So the same thing the cosmic person is also doing. Cosmic person is also getting nourished by natural food. And when you are putting food inside, you know that some of the food is going to diseases, some other food is going to health. The diseases part of the food consuming entities are asuric entities inside, and the health part of the consuming entities are the devatas. So that is why while taking food every day, they people say uh, pranaya swaha, apanaya swaha. These swaha mantras are uttered while taking food, while sending the food also. So taking food inside is being viewed as a yajna. Actually, if you connect the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, one question in 8th chapter that is answered by Krishna to Arjuna is that Adhiyajna kaham kotra? Who is Adhiyajna here? Then the answer given is that Adhiyajnam ahameva dehe. But how? The answer is given in the 15th chapter. प्राणापान समायुक्तः पचाम्यन्नं चतुर्विधम् अहं वैश्वानरो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहमाश्रितः. The cosmic entity is in the form of the appetite, the appetizing fire inside, and that appetizing fire, the metabolic fire, is consuming prana apana samayuktaha, inhaling and exhaling winds. With the help of those two, pachami annam chaturvidham. Four kinds of food I am processing here. So, if you are looking at this individual process, then if you look at the cosmic person, same thing is happening there in cosmic person also. In cosmic person also, pranapana samayukta chaturvidha annapachanam is happening. But there, where are the Asuri Shaktis? Where are the Devata Shaktis? Inside, you are able to see as the diseases here and as the health forces in your body. But if you are able to realize that there are natural disease forces and natural health forces, if you make the cosmic person eat in such a way, if you make the cosmos eat in such a way that it nourishes the disease bodies, then diseases grow. If you make the cosmic person eat in such a way that the devatas, the health forces are nourished, then health happens to nature, cosmic person. So, even if you talk not in a very religious way, even in a rational way about Purusha Sukta, you can easily say that you have modeled the cosmic person as per your own imagination in your own way. Whatever you are able to see here, you are able to see there. Andanda, Pindanda, and Brahmānḍa. Whatever is there in this Andanda and Pindanda, it is there in Brahmānḍa. So those are the words even villagers in India use. And yatha Andande, tatha Brahmānḍe, yatha Pindande, tatha Brahmānḍe. All these are very popular words in India. So we are not cooking up anything. We are saying that all Indians know that cosmos is the macrocosm of the microcosm of our own process here, and we are the microcosm of the macrocosm of cosmic person. So that kind of view of viewing organismically cosmos as an organism and a self-sustained, self-regulated and self-sustained organism is cosmic person, Virat Purusha. So that organismic view, in that this word yajnena yajñam ayajanta devaha, and then the other beautiful word is tani dharmani pradhamanyasan. Kani dharmani prathamani means here role model, emulating. So yajna was created emulating the natural yajnas that were happening without any human. Nature is performing itself as a yajna. So humans imitated that and they created yajnas for them is what is described in Purusha Sukta. And these lines, the beauty is these lines are uttered by every Hindu in their house. For example,
Exactly.
at the time of Udvasana of the Vigraha, whenever Vigraha is removed at the end of the puja, this mantra Yajnana Yajnam Ajanta Devaha is uttered. So people know these things as household daily proverbial knowledge, but they probably do not know this kind of meaning unless some Kathagavachakar or some Pravachanakar or some Pauranik, some Shastri at some place explains these things, but they have become household knowledge in India. This cosmic person and we being the microcosm of the cosmic person being the macrocosm of ourselves,
Macrocosm. Yes. Yatha
microcosm.
Pinde
That
Tatha Brahmānḍa. Yes.
understand.
It's so moving to know that such depth is there in our knowledge, and it is percolated down to the last person, the Antyodaya, if you will, in the society. And those whom we consider today who are not educated, even they can quote to us Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmānḍa, even maybe without knowing, but they know it in its essence. But we see today that most educated people, the people who have come out of modern education, don't know this. So, as we are coming to a close, I would like to take comments from both of you on how to infuse that sense of environment, that sense of sacredness towards nature, back into education, back into the modern Hindu psyche, who is going away from it. Pankaj, I would like to start with you, and Nagaraj will then close with Pankaj.
We we need to bring the Hindu practice back in life, which means that how Hindus used to spend the day based on their kartavya bodh, that needs to come, because the cosmic rhythm, see the ecological knowledge, the understanding of ecosystems, that does not come to us very easily rationally. And one example would suffice, that today we have so much data information about the loss of ecosystems. So this age is the richest in terms of knowing what we are losing, and this age is also richest in the terms of losing that heritage. This is the age in which we are destroying our ecosystems faster than any age before. So the knowledge of the loss doesn't translate into stopping that loss. What stops is that when we bring behavioral changes in our life, that those changes come with small customs and rituals, because that is how, just like a mantra opens up its meaning to you when you keep chanting it over a period of time, when you keep doing a ritual, daily ritual for over the years, those rhythms, those cosmic rhythms, those hidden rhythms will appear to you. You will be able to understand them more easily. So, in order to infuse ecological sense in our lives, we need to bring in once again those Hindu rituals, because it's very clear that if you just have a technical knowledge of a mountain, you will argue, just like the Chinese government does, that a highway at this place of this mountain, a highway is better because this connects the two places very easily. So they will blast away the mountain, and they really do that. They blast away entire mountain so that they can create road. But if you consider that mountain as a deva, as a devta, you will not dare do that. Hindus do not have this urge to climb the mountains. They have the urge to go around it so that they are protected. I will end with just one quotation with the world over how other ecological cultures see this. And this is once again about the Himalayas. And one of the first attempts, one of the very great attempts to climb the great mountain, Mount Everest, Sagarmatha in Nepal. He described his first sighting. So they can now look at Mount Everest. We had mounted perhaps 1,000 feet when we stopped to wait for what we had come to see. As the clouds rolled asunder before the heights, gradually, very gradually, we saw the great mountainsides and glaciers and ridges, now one fragment, now another, through the floating rifts until far higher in the sky than imagination dared to suggest. A prodigious white fang, an excrescence from the jaw of the world, the summit of Everest, appeared. This is how beautifully it is described. But Wade Davis, the great author, cultural anthropologist, says, though the Lama, the local, was puzzled as to why one would tread upon sacred ground and disturb the spirit of the mount. The British, in fact, approached the peak with a reverence that even Tibetans might find difficult to match. To placate the monks, Mallory, the climber, and Howard Berry described their expedition as a group of mountain worshippers embarked on pilgrimage. Cryptic as they intended the message to be, in fact, perfectly encapsulated who they were, climbers willing to sacrifice all to reach the summit of the unknown. The word sacrifice, of course, means to make sacred. And when Mallory, in his famous retort, explained that the reason for climbing Everest was nothing more than the fact that it was there, he distilled the perfect notion of emptiness and pure purpose. So, to a Hindu, to a follower of a traditional dharma, it would not make sense. What is the auchitya? Just because it is there, and the urge to conquer the highest and the mightiest, that's not the Hindu worldview. But this does not come from just reading about it. This comes from following those rituals in our life. So, if we are able to create policies and education which encourage following the Hindu ways of life, then just the philosophy, because a dharma is not saved by just preserving its philosophy. Greek philosophy is still there, Greek religion is gone. They teach Greek philosophy in their university, Greek society is destroyed, Greek religion is gone. A dharma is saved by its practicing. So, if our policies move towards a place and if our education move towards a place where the Hindu ritualistic customized way of life becomes more natural, it is incentivized by policy, then we will also move towards a better and ecological way of life. Thank you.
Absolutely. Nagaraj, your closing comments on this?
Uh, I thank you, Anshumanji, for using that word. Uh, those who are considered to be uneducated also. So I would end by saying that we should stop using this word uneducated, and we should realize that we are the uneducated, and we should recognize the reversal that those whom we have been calling uneducated are the educated actually. They are environmentally educated. For example, what Pankaj was saying in the form of hill worship, all the shepherds and cattle raiders, all the pastoral jatis in India, they worship hill as their deity. For example, the Kurmas and Kurubas in South India, they call the mountain itself as Malayanna, Malanna, Mailara. They use those words and they worship the hill. And Krishna instructed in Vrindavan to worship Govardhan, the hill itself, because he was also a pastoral in the story. And he was saying the hill is helping your cattle to graze. So worship the hill directly. And that hill worship, all these, the present generation has to be educated about getting de-educated from what they are viewing as education and get re-educated from the actual education which is as presently sorrily being called as uneducated. Thank you.
Exactly. De-schooling society is the need. I thank both of our guests for joining in this talk and enlightening us about the Hindu view of ecology and the world. So thank you again, Nagaraji. Thank you, Pankaj. We can end with that. I'll just end with the Shanti Mantra and then we can conclude. Om Purnamata Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you.